Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Emily Foreman. I am the CEO over at CartHook. At CartHook, we have partnered with Shopify and created a post-purchase offers app that allows Shopify merchants the ability to implement post-purchase offers on their stores. And I am excited to introduce Jon MacDonald with The Good. It is an agency based in Portland, Oregon, and they work on conversion rate optimizations for large direct-to-consumer brands. So very excited for him to kind of dig into the stores that we have today. And I know I'm excited to learn new things. So Jon, I will hand things off to you and we'll kick off the teardown.
Great. So we have a handful of sites lined up for today. Thank you to everybody who submitted. We won't get to everybody, unfortunately, but pay attention at the end. There is some ways we can easily get a hold of me and we can discuss your particular site. So I'm going to share my screen. So what we're going to do is start with the homepage, and then we will go in from there. So you all should be able to see my screen now. This is going to be the first site we'll take a look at. I have a few others queued up, and then we have a longer list as well that we can definitely take a look at. So I'm going to do this where I'm going to refresh this just for a fresh view here. So first one is Canyon Coolers. So hopefully the folks from Canyon are here today. We can have a little bit of back and forth on this, answer some questions as we go through, etc. So that's great. Okay, so first thing first, the biggest challenge that I see here is that you're immediately doing a pop-up. You'll probably hear me talk about this a lot today, because if there are just a couple of things that I could completely eliminate from the internet, one of them would be pop-ups like this. Now, I'm not a huge fan of pop-ups. I understand people always tell me, but they collect email addresses. They're really good at that. They work really well. They do, but there's other considerations that need to be taken into account here. And the first one is generally people are doing discounts in exchange for an email, right? Obviously, that's not happening here. So kudos to you, Canyon, for doing more of a sweepstakes or type offering. But what we often find is that you should really think about these pop-ups as if your site is a retail store. And I think that the biggest issue is if you walked into a retail store and the sales associate jumped out in front of you with a clipboard and said, "Give me your email address," you would be upset, right? You're probably, I don't know about you, but I'm going to turn around and walk out of the store. And so it's just because you can't see the consumer on the other side of the screen is really not any different. And so what I encourage folks to do is not have pop-ups that start right off of the when the page loads. Instead, if you want to do something like this, I would really bake it into the page content, one. And two is at least do it on a scroll trigger. What I mean by that is as people scroll further down the page, they're getting to know your brand a little bit, then maybe you offer them something like this. Now, I would never do a discount, and I'm sure we'll have in the other sites we're looking at today options there to look at these specifically. But the challenge with doing a discount in these pop-ups is that you are immediately telling people who come to your site that your products are not worth what you charge for them, right? They're worth whatever discount you're offering. The second problem with this is you're going to exchange an email address for a discount. What happens is that folks will enter in that secondary email address that they have that they just use for spam, and they're never going to really open your emails after that point, which is going to just hurt your deliverability. Or worse, they just start unsubscribing or marking you as spam, which means you're going to end up in that dreaded promotions tab or some other areas that really aren't helpful. So what I would really recommend here is that you shy away from doing discount pop-ups or pop-ups for emails at all. So with that, I'll get off the soapbox a little bit and we can dive into this. But I really like here the free shipping at the top. we have found that these notification and promo bars, I'll try to annotate a little bit here as well. These notifications and promo bars, the biggest thing about them is that really what happens is that consumers come to your site and they have some concerns that they're going to be surprised by shipping charges. And I don't know, it's happened to everybody probably on this webinar where you go to add something to your cart. Next thing you know, it's an additional $5, $10 you have to pay for shipping, and it gets really frustrating. So people come into your site being concerned about that. And so what I would recommend is that everybody who is doing one of these bars, don't do a discount up there. Don't do a COVID notification, or any of those types of things. Only thing I would focus on here is free shipping. You're eliminating the concern, and people breathe a sigh of relief and continue their shopping experience. Looking at the navigation a little bit, one thing that I really don't like to see generally is just shop in the navigation. You really want to focus on helping people understand that they're in the right place immediately. How consumers are going to do that is they're going to look at your navigation and say, do they have the products I'm generally interested in, right? They came to your site via an ad, a recommendation from a friend, something they saw on social. All of that stuff is great. But once they get to your site, they have some type of expectation, and you want to help them understand if they're in the right place, and you can help solve the pain or need that they are at your site to solve, right? So what really makes sense is I would just list, a handful of these items, right? So hard coolers, soft coolers, drinkware, and then I would do gear and put accessories under gear, perhaps, if it's just stickers, things of that sort. But even then, if you just had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these 5 items, I think you would do extremely well. Things like Boneyard, which I assume is, it's an interesting name, making people think a little bit, but I assume that's your products that are no longer in stock, or that not in stock, but no longer being manufactured, for instance. So scratch and dents. Okay, great. So what I would do, John, is I would put those B stock items under the categories they go in, and just indicate that they're scratch and dent or B stock items, instead of having a separate category, because that way you end up getting some cross sell. People who are interested in those sale items see other items that catch their eye. You're eliminating that opportunity here by people who are just going to go to that sales items, or the less expensive items, if you will. So instead of just having shop, I would pull those items up. Now, you could make Explore a drop down as well and just have those 3 items. So that's definitely an option to have that. So I recommend generally between 5 and 6 navigation items is usually the sweet spot. So if you did hard, soft, drink, wear, accessories, gear, and then Explore, you would have a really good number of navigation items, and people who come right to your site know immediately what are the types of products that you sell.
To pause here for a second, we have a lot of action happening in chat, which is great. And one thing that has resonated with a few folks is around the free shipping banner. So that is very solid advice. But one question that came up from Wayne is, would you also recommend setting flat rate shipping? So having, do you find that flat rate versus free shipping converts a little lower, higher, better?
We have done a lot of testing on this. Now, we've been optimizing sites it was 12 years in the beginning of April, our 12th anniversary. So we've done a lot of shipping tests. And what I can tell you is that almost always what wins is just a higher price with shipping baked in, almost every time. Flat rate shipping is great. You're telling people up front what to expect. So I think that's a close second. But free shipping just really can't be beat. People are expecting it. Look, we all have Amazon to thank for that, quite honestly, right? Prime has spoiled the e-commerce shopping masses. But I think, the thing to really consider here is that if you have flat rate shipping of $4 or $5, right? Add that into your pricing and let people know you have free shipping. I think we've found that psychologically that just performs a lot better.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And something, from my perspective, it is a lot. If
Mhm.
there's free shipping versus flat rate, I'm tend to purchase over the free.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And people don't really consider if you're on the site, think about the cost of time. If
Mhm.
something is $3 more, $4 more than wherever else, to save $4, 99.9% of people are not going to spend that time to go back to Google, find another supplier, make sure the product matches straight up for $4. They're just going to go ahead and move forward with it, even though it might have been a few extra dollars over what they thought they might be
Yep,
paying, as long as they get the product in a timely fashion. So.
exactly.
Okay, so let's look at the feature area. So these main feature areas, I always believe, should be a place for you to let people know why your brand. What is the overarching message of your brand? What I mean by that is that I don't like it when brands feature one single product here and or a special or a new product. Instead, I really want to know what makes your brand different, right? Tell me a little bit of a brand story in this area, something that can connect and resonate with consumers. Let them know they're in the right place. You can help solve their pain or need, right? Doesn't mean you can't feature products in the photography, things of that sort, right? But when you feature one product like this, consumers, especially in combination with just having shop in the navigation, folks are probably looking at this and saying they only sell hoodies or maybe they sell beer, right? And so I think it's something to really be thinking about here. Do you want to sell coolers or sell hoodies? Um, and so, featuring a new product like an all new Canyon logo hoodie generally is not going to perform as well. You may sell more hoodies, but generally you want people to be knowing more about the brand and the products that you offer. What makes you a little different? Why should I buy Canyon over, Yeti or any of these other massive brands out there?
So would
Um,
you
s-
recommend in that sense of having kind of a gallery slider? What are your thoughts on?
Great question. Short answer is no. I feel like a negative person today a little bit, but what I would tell you is that we've done a lot of tests on sliders. Automatic rotating sliders are very, very poor for performers.
Mhm.
Notre Dame University did a great study on automatic sliders. And what they found was when you have an automatic slider, the first item gets clicked about 1% of visits, right? The second and third and fourth item is all about a tenth of a percent. So people just don't click anything past that first one. The worst consumer experience, we did a hilarious video once, social video on this, where we had it where you're in a store. We did a whole bunch of like treat your website as if you were in a retail store,
Mhm.
and it was a rack of clothes. But every time someone reached out to grab the rack of clothes, the clothes would all
Would
move over.
slide. Yeah.
Hmm. And so then you would grab the wrong one. Well,
Yeah.
it's the same exact
Mhm.
experience for a consumer, right? They're looking to better understand what they're looking at, and they want to go in and click on that item if they're interested in it, and then all of a sudden it becomes a problem for them. So
Makes sense.
yeah.
Mhm.
So moving down a little bit, I always enjoy when brands put their products here, help people understand again what they're selling, but you're missing something. That's a clear call to action. On each of these products underneath, you need a clear call to action to tell people what to do. And it should be consistent. So I'm a huge fan of consistent and clear call to action. So you have this yellow button with black text. Do something similar down here underneath. Let me see if I can draw on this again. Underneath each of these, right? I would do just a button under each of these. Excuse my mess of drawing with my mouse. And what I would do here is put a low intent to purchase call to action. It's so many brands try to close the sale on the homepage. And the problem with that is the homepage really should just be the goal of it should just be to get people to that next step in the funnel, right? So you don't necessarily want people to have to buy now or add to cart at this level. You just want them to learn more, view details, something that's a little bit lower intent to purchase. So that's what I would suggest in this spot here. And again, these in-page navigations that you have here with the carousels like this, what we find is consumers very rarely click in-page navigations, whether it's a carousel like that, or another big one is accordion, where you have like FAQs often have that, where it's all the FAQs, and then you click on one and the text pops out in between. Those don't perform very well either for engagement. So a couple of quick things there. This why buy a canyon is something that I would really focus on up above, but I love that you're talking about it now. And you're hitting it right on the head, right? There's so many options in the cooler market. Here's a quick guide that what sets us apart. I would almost just have really have a clear differentiating point listed here. I'm sure there's more than one, but at least list one so that if somebody reads it. But I think this is great. SPF 100 for your ice. That's a great headline. That right there is something where I would move that up into that banner, right? That's a great proposition. It's something that's clever and fun. And you have some good photography to go with it. User-friendly design. It tips to be square. This is great. You're showing what makes you different and how it's used. I think this is all really great. Okay, this looks like a bear attacked it or something. Who knows? But I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I would almost tell the story of that cooler here. What happened there? Yeah, and you're showing it in use and how tough it is. This is all great content. I think what I would recommend doing is focusing on more than just the coolers. You have the drinkware and the soft coolers, but all we've seen is that one hard cooler throughout all of these. So if I'm looking at your brand, I really think this is the only one product that you sell just by navigating your homepage. Now, obviously, you have this rotating carousel here, but depending on where it lands, you could very well look at that and say, okay, you only have the one style of cooler that you're selling. So I think you're leaving some other products in the dust here that there's probably good value from. So helping people do that. Let's take a look at this email sign up really quickly here. Now, there's a couple of things that should be in every email sign up. You really want to have reassurance and expectation setting. So what do I mean by that? You want to tell people, what are you signing up for and how often are you going to contact them? Right? So here you do a great job of saying, sign up for the bi-monthly newsletter. Perfect. Interesting reads, useful tips and tricks, straight to your inbox. You'll also receive exclusive crew member discounts and promotions. I think that's great. It's two sentences. It's quick. People understand what they're going to sign up for, and you're not leading with the discounts and promotions. You're saying, hey, we're also going to do that occasionally. So, which I'm okay with. If you're providing me with interesting reads, useful tips and tricks, right? Okay, I understand you're going to market to me occasionally, and I'm okay with that. The only other thing I think is missing here is a privacy statement, where I would put a small sentence under here that just says, we'll never sell your email address, respect your privacy. Something doesn't have to be large, just, stating that will really help. And the last thing is, unless you truly need the first and last name, always stick to just the email. There's a lot of great services out there now that can help you get that information after you've collected the email address and fill in your database. But also, it's something you could ask for in a follow-up. You could say, hey, tell us a little bit about yourself. Click here to fill out a survey and ask for that information, and then tailor the emails to them. You'd be surprised that a large number of people will do that. Looking at the footer here, and then maybe there's some questions. I'm not sure. Emily, you'll have to guide me on that a little bit.
Yeah, we're looking good. Yeah.
Okay, great. Looking at the footer here, couple of things. It's always great to have contact information in the bottom right-hand corner. Consumers who are coming to your site, we've noticed this great trend where if somebody has a question or wants to get a hold of a brand, they're not even going to look at the navigation. They're not going to click a utility nav. They're going to scroll and go all the way down to the bottom right-hand corner. And what they're looking for there is this contact information and support in that footer. Now, there's also a huge trust signifier here. If you list a physical address, as you have, a phone number and email address, you're hitting the trust trifecta. And I say that kind of jokingly, but the reality is that people are going to believe more about you and your brand, and that they're going to get their products when they give you their credit card information if you have this information in your footer. Nobody will show up at your address, most likely. I've never heard of it happening, but they want to know: are you a legitimate business, and are you trying to hide behind the internet? And so I think that would make a lot of sense. Now, in terms of get support, I think that's great to have that there. Explore Canyon, great. But over here on the left, to the left of all of this, what I would really recommend doing is adding another column that is all of your products. So I would have probably can't write this very well, but I would have all your shop items here and just list the main categories, repeating your main navigation items that we talked about earlier. And then lastly, the only other thing I see here is it's very common for people to have these credit card icons on their site. What we find when we do eye tracking studies is that their eyes automatically get drawn down to these color logos. And the reality is they're not adding any value. They're not required by any payment processor. They're not required by the credit card companies. And I don't know about you, but when was the last time you were at a website and trying to buy something that didn't take at least one payment form that you had available to you? It's just not a concern anymore. So I would really suggest just eliminating those to clean it up a little bit, and also just so consumers aren't distracted by the color icons and going away from the items in the footer.
Makes sense.
Right.
Because CartHook, is part of the checkout experience, I'd love to take a look at kind of what their cart checkout page looks like. If you wouldn't mind adding something to the cart.
Sure, let's do that. Let's just do the 55 quart. Has yet to be mauled by a bear.
Yeah, which I do have to say that the copy on this website, kudos to whoever wrote that. It's pretty clever.
Yeah, it's great. Okay, so then they have some recommended accessories, which I would have never have known there was a basket accessory. So that's a great. The traction pad, again, would have never have known that these were options: tie down kit, seat cushion, etc. So I think it's nice that you have these. I would make them more apparent also on the actual product page as well. Oh, customize. Here we go. Okay, that's great. We don't have time to do the PDP as well, but let's get into checkout here. We do find that Affirm and having this in here can be helpful, so that's good. There's a ton of these buy now, pay later offerings out there right now, and that does help.
I agree with that too. Not to interrupt you, but jumping in, I'm seeing that too with higher valued products, having a split payment option or quick pay even helps that conversion rate as well. So yeah, I'm happy to see that as well.
We found the cutoff is about $100. Anything about $100 or more can really benefit from having that. It was funny. We saw a product that was $12 that somebody was offering in 4 payments. And it was kind of like, if you can't afford $12, should you be buying it?
Yeah, should you buy it? Also, one thing to note sometimes it's a little bit hidden feature within those split pay options is you can toggle on and off of when to display that as a payment option. So I always recommend that too, because it does look a little maybe tacky to have Affirm for a $20 product, but.
Yeah. So otherwise, this is, of course, these are all Shopify sites, and that's great. Unless you're on Shopify Plus, there is very limited stuff you can do to your checkout. Now, post-purchase, there's like CartHook is amazing. That's typically what we recommend and works extremely well. Was there anything else in checkout that you wanted to take a look at, Emily?
I think, I was happy to see the express checkout. I would say that is a big thing that comes up with our merchants. It's a very big, speaking to Shopify Plus merchants, one thing that we are always promoting is how your site looks on mobile. A recent Shopify study that came back with about 70% of checkouts are now happening on mobile. So being able to understand what your site looks like on desktop, but also how it's rendering on mobile is very important. And that's why seeing Express Pay is huge, because it's the first thing you're going to see when you're on your mobile phone and make it easier for you to check out.
I will say that Shop Pay has dramatically changed my buying behavior personally, and I spend darn near my entire day looking at e-commerce sites, right?
Mhm.
And so it's really interesting. Always used to buy on desktop and
Mhm.
do some research on mobile and then send a link over to my desktop and complete the purchase, just because entering credit card information, et cetera, is a pain in the butt, right?
Yep.
But Shop Pay has dramatically changed that for me. Even, Apple Pay, what I love Apple Pay, but it's not everywhere.
Mhm.
And having Shop Pay, across the majority of ecom has really been huge. So
Yeah, I
it's great.
agree. It's definitely, I have not made purchases because I cannot check out with ShopPay. So agree
Yeah.
on that. It's
Yeah.
super helpful.
All right. So the person who is here from Canyon Coolers, I'm sorry to get up your cart abandonment percentage there, but we're going to move on to the next one. And let's take a look at HydroJug. Looks to me like they're using the same type of pop-up form that Canyon was. So as soon as this loads here, oh, we start scrolling. Okay, at least on this one, it pops up when you start scrolling, so that's better. But again, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but the fact that they are offering a discount code and they're saying you can get between 5 and 50% off, and then even asking for a birth date, these are all things that I generally would not recommend from a good consumer experience, and are generally going to kill conversions. Now, looking at this, they have you're only $45 away from free shipping. I think that's valid. It's great that you're telling people that you can unlock free shipping with a certain amount. So that's always really helpful to see. And I think that, that serves as well, as just saying free shipping, because people don't expect to get it for nothing in most instances. But that's great. Now, I would not have these automatically rotating like we saw earlier, but part of the challenge with that is that this button, the call to action, keeps moving right between the two. And I think that that's a bit of an issue we see quite often, where consumers then get really frustrated trying to understand where they should be interacting with there. Generally, again, we're back to the shop, and one thing here is bringing those up in terms of what bottles or bundles or supplements. So I think that's an issue. Product features is probably something that you should dive into. You do here. Well, you see all features, but you make it a link. It takes you to another page. So I would really lead with features and benefits over product. Generally, that's what a homepage is for. Again, it's all about getting people to take that next step down the funnel, and that's really what you're looking for here. And then blog is not something we see this a lot. It's not something that should be in your main navigation. The reason being is a blog is wonderful for getting people into the top of a funnel, right? It's great for driving traffic, but once they're at your site, you want to keep them there and you want to convert them, right? And so the homepage should be thought of as that second step in your funnel, right? The blog content is almost like your ads that you're running on social, et cetera, right? It's a brand engagement, but you need them to take the next step down the funnel. If you got them to your homepage or any other page on your site that's not the blog, they're further down the funnel than they are if you were just on a blog page. So effectively, you're sending them back up that funnel, which is not a good experience. So I highly recommend that you remove blog from here, and then Hydro Viewer really doesn't tell you what it is, and I think that's going to be confusing for folks. So I would really consider what you're doing there. I see this quite often where brands use terms that they understand and they know, but their consumers, new to file consumers, would not. And I think it's extremely important for brands to be able to read the label from inside the jar. So if you're a brand, you are so close to your site, you're so close to your brand, that it becomes a big challenge for you to understand what it's like for a new to file customer. So what we would always recommend there is that you bring consumers in and have them engage with your site. right? There's a lot of inexpensive ways to do that now. Pre-pandemic, I would always just say, take your laptop, go to a Starbucks by you, and approach people in line and just say, hey, like, I will buy your coffee if you answer a few questions about my site as I go through it. And you just ask them to complete a simple task and watch them and ask them to talk out loud about what they're thinking. You can do some research online. It's called the Think Out Loud protocol. There's a lot of great articles about user testing and how to do this on your own up on our site. If you go to thegood.com, click on Insights and just search for user testing. But the reality here is, if you are new to File Customer, you're not going to understand what HydroViewer is. Where if you work with the brand, it's probably like, hey, that's a great branded term. So.
Nice. Before we kind of jump to the next section, one question that came up, specifically around pop-ups is, it is a valid question. So what are your thoughts on kind of exit intent pop-ups? So as someone is leaving your site and you want to maybe offer a discount or a free gift, is that a no-no, or are you okay with that type of pop-up?
Right. I'm in the scale of pop-ups, my favorite is going to be exit intent. I think it still matters what you do with that exit intent pop-up. It might be good to incentivize at that point a little bit, which is good. But I think, a good portion of savvy consumers know to do two things. Never buy on the first visit to a site, even if that means you close it and come back to it, or you try to make it look like you're exiting, right? And add something to your cart and fill out the email field and then walk away and come back a couple hours later and you're going to have a discount.
Your cart abandonment. Yep.
So the problem with all of that is that we as e-commerce industry have trained consumers on this, and it's really just hurting ourselves. And it's a really hard hole to dig out of. And, it's just one of those things that is not sustainable, quite honestly. So, yes, exit intent works and I like it. But I think the messaging there needs to be something where it's not a percentage or dollar off discount. I would do something like free gift with purchase, or something that's a promotion, right? A bundle and save, right? So, hey, buy 3 of these jugs, have one for the gym, one from the office, and one for your car, or something, right? Something like that would be, an offer, but not a discount.
Yep. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So scrolling down here, you've got your featured products. Now you have shop, but I'm not sure I like the placement of that shop button. I would put it down below the price, because there's a lot of little messages going on here. I think if we were to do some eye tracking, we might have some challenges understanding what content aligns with what products, and then also what this content is up here in the corner. So save big with bundles, but there's no way to actually get into the bundle. So maybe that's just an error or something. But and then really what I would do is move these shop buttons here under each of these, and then try to align it in the middle. That's just a pretty simple little thing that could be done to make sure that people understand, consumers understand what is what. Now, the other thing here is you say sale, but when you have a discounted price like this, we always recommend doing 3 different things. The first is list the original price and then do a strike through, right? So we show the strike through price plus the sale price, plus call that out in terms of what percentage or dollar off. So you have to do the math for the consumer. So how much was the original and what is that sale? Otherwise, just listing sale there is not really as much of an incentive for folks. It's not very enticing. So I see this quite often with athletic type. We do a lot of supplement companies, athletic supplement companies, and it's really interesting. We see this quite often when we first start working with them, that it's apply to be part of their team, like an influencer type situation. The consumers who are coming to your site, generally this is going to be a very low percentage who are interested in this. And if they are, they're likely not seeing this panel because they're scrolling all the way to your footer to look for that link. So I think you could eliminate this call to action here and focus back on the products. And I love that you're doing this with those influencers, though. I think this is great. They look like, real people who are interested in your products. The unboxing, the favorite designs, overall fitness favorites. I think that's great. Social proof like this performs extremely well, especially in video. I think the one thing you might be missing here is clear call to actions, right? So again, if they're interested in this, looks like a flower pattern, put a button to buy that specific item down here to learn more about that item. Would be really interesting, I think. I like this shop bottle, shop accessory. I think if people are if they've scrolled this far down the page, it makes a lot of sense to start just giving them a quick way. I love the messaging about going green. I think that performs really well with a good subset of users and visitors. So I would almost suggest moving that up the page, right? That's a really great benefit of using your products. Now, Instagram is something that I have a little bit of a challenge with because if we click on this, you've done the right thing here, which is amazing. You have this pop-up that then takes you into the products and gives you more details. I don't know that I would do add to cart here. I would probably do something more along taking them to the product detail page because they're generally going to want to know more information about this product. But a lot of folks make the mistake of having a tile of Instagram images that link out to Instagram. The problem with that is it's a black hole. I don't know about you, but I get on Instagram and it's like death scrolling.
You're gone. Yeah.
You're gone. And they're not coming back. So the reality is, having embedded, and there's so many tools that let you do this now, having them embedded in this way is really, really beneficial. So I like what you've done here. I don't know that I would go with add to cart. I would probably push them to the product detail page, but I give this a B for being much better than everything else that I've seen around Instagram. And the photography on here, the product features, that type of stuff is great. It's clear what you're selling, clear that you have accessories. It's fun. So I think that's great to see.
Yeah, that is good. And I do like their photography. One question, it kind of taps on what you just talked about that came up is, do you typically recommend when you have a product and there might be several products within a collection, do you recommend going to that specific product page or when they click on it, going to the collection?
Yes, great question. I would send people to the collection more than just the product. And a lot of collection pages will allow you to feature one particular colorway if you're looking at something of that type of collection, for instance. And you could deep link into that. That's what I would typically recommend so they can see all the other options.
Nice.
And move forward from there. This type of product might be a little different. I would run some testing on it only because it looks like they have one product with all these other colorways. I can't imagine having one product detail page that lists all of these different colorways on it. So this is what I was expecting, as opposed to clicking in and then having like a huge grid of colors, right?
Yep.
So that's good to see that you're driving people into each of the different colors, which is great. All right. Last thing here was on the footer, and then we can move on to the next site. So again, we've already talked about newsletter and sign up, so I'll leave that. You have a lot more payment icons. Even though they're not color, you could still get rid of those. And then in terms of your footer on your nav, I would always want to see a column format as opposed to listing them in rows like this. And then you really need, right now it kind of feels like I have to hunt a little bit, right? To find what I'm looking for, because all the color is the same. They all look very, very similar grouped together. Put them in columns based on what they're looking for. And then you need to have all your contact information in there on the right-hand side. And then on the left-hand side, make sure you have your product navigation again. And I think that a small change to your footer like that would go a really long way in helping you convert folks who scroll this far down.
And column recommendation over stack like this is mainly just visual, easy to pull out the information that you need.
Exactly. Easy to know exactly where you should go. right?
Mhm.
So if you're going to list all the products in that way, and then, if you have a support column, it's pretty clear that's where I'm going. You have a contact column, right? And then generally there's like a miscellaneous, which is more about the brand, things of that sort, the blog, etc., which is all good content to have in the footer. And if people are interested, that's where they're going to go. So hopefully, Gabrielle, that answered your question. Gabriel, excuse me. All right. Should we move on to Velour?
Let's move.
All right. I'm going to try to do these last two a little quicker so we can fit within the hour.
Yep.
All right. So Velour, you have free sample with $60 and free shipping with $50. I would just focus on the one message, which is the free shipping with $50. It's a little confusing. I'm going to, get shopping and be like, wait, was it $60 to free shipping or 50? And so focus on one key message. I'm also, we've done a lot of testing, and I'm not really a fan of having the utility nav mixed in with the notification bar. What's going to happen if we did eye tracking on this is people are going to start and they're going to read this message, and then they're going to go straight down the page. And so I bet if we did some eye tracking on it, you would see that the eyes just kind of go like this. And then that means this never gets seen. And what also is going to happen is your navigation is going to get ignored. Right. So I would highly recommend when you're looking at these to do a couple of different things. The first is move this down into its own items, and then have kind of a 3-tier navigation. So your first tier is this notification bar, then you have the utility bar, then you have your main navigation. Again, I'm not a fan of putting something like new, and it goes in the same category as sales, right? The problem with new in items like sale is that that's where a bunch of people are going to go first, and then they're not going to have that cross-sell opportunities to see all of the product ranges that they were interested in. Also, it's really not as helpful to consumers who are looking to solve for a need, right? You have to understand people are coming to your site not because you have new products. They're coming to your site because that new product is supposed to solve a pain or need. Right. So is that need around lashes? I think beauty might even be a little too broad of a category there. Bundles. Okay. What kind of bundles are we selling? Right. That should be under each product category that would feature it. And then accessories, things of that sort. So, and then lastly, we really don't recommend putting rewards in main navigation. We see this quite often, but the challenge with rewards is that is great once somebody has decided to convert and to get them to come back. But it's not something you really need to introduce at this level while they're starting to look. So, but I do love how you're talking about a new product, but you're talking about how it's a big innovation and what it is, and showing some great product photography there. So while you're featuring one product, I think you're also kind of touching on the brand, of it being innovative a little bit there. So that's great to see. And then I love this section here. This is so great. If you can do liner, you can do lashes. Look, I don't wear lashes, but I can tell you that I get what's going on here, and that's great. So simple. Line, apply lash, and go. This is great. No magnets, no mess. I didn't know ladies wore magnets for lashes. That's the new one to me, but that does not sound comfortable to me. But this is a great product in terms of how you are showing it here, and I think this is really great. And then you bring in that social proof, really clever at the last one. It's saying that you are a beauty expert award winner. I think that's great. And then shop, lash, and go liner. Now, one thing I might consider with this is you are being consistent in having these be clear. So that's great. What I would recommend is maybe having them be in a consistent color, though, already highlighted, so they attract more eyes down there. Handpicked for you. I'm never a huge fan of saying that on these pages, only because you don't know who I am, and this is my first time to your site, and you're handpicking items for me. I get what you're trying to make it a little more personal, but folks know this is really just your best sellers, perhaps. So might as well just say that. And then, the other thing is you have really high intent to purchase here. Everything is add to bag. If I really don't know what these are, or I want more details, I'm kind of stuck. It makes a problem to go do that. Right. And then the other thing is I noticed this earlier when you have this options, but you really don't have any options, and there's a drop down with just the one item in it. You really don't need that drop down. But I think, I would make these lower intent to send people again to that product detail page. The whole point of the homepage, get them to that next step in the funnel. Lashes, beauty, accessories, this is great. Really clear in terms of what to do, and you're taking them into shop. The only question I have about these is every other call to action has a little bit of a color change when you roll over it, and these do not. So that just feels a little off to me. And I'm sure to some consumers, they're wondering if it truly is a button. It's always great to say what we stand for in that brand aspect. And I think this is really well done. I think what you could do here perhaps is even just call these out a little more in terms of what that means for the consumer. But things like lashes with 25 plus uses is great. I would almost lead with that up top if that's a true differentiator. Okay, and then here you're doing the best sellers, but again, you're saying add to bag. Now you've also mixed in the pricing, which up above, you didn't have the pricing on the buttons. So maybe this is a test they're running. I would want to see what performs better. But I do love how you actually added a line in here as well to give it a little more details. And then these badges, like bestseller, they perform extremely well. So really love to see those bestseller badges when possible. Also with the awards, etc. So, I really like this lockup, everything except for saying add to bag versus viewing details and taking them to that PDP. Okay, so footer, same things I've been saying, right? You want to make sure you have your contact information on the right. I'm not a huge fan of asking for a phone number in an email sign-up form. I get that text messaging is huge these days. I would focus on one or the other. So that's really what I would look at. And then you're missing your product navigation down here. So otherwise, this is a great page. I think you've done some great items here, and I think there's a couple of opportunities to tweak for sure.
Yeah, I definitely like the social proof as well. And to, little feedback on the phone number, a great way to capture that information is on the checkout page. Yes. So implementing an, a SMS cart abandonment solution that captures not only their email, but text. So you can grab all of that. One question that came up. So we were talking about social proof and how you like that and you like the badges on the images. What are your thoughts on customer testimonials? So adding a customer testimonial maybe to the cart page, does that tend to help with conversion?
Yes, 100% it does. We call that social proof. And we definitely want to see social proof as much as we can. Now, you don't want to go overboard with social proof. A lot of times we see social proof and it has like a paragraph quote from somebody. You really just want to hit, what is that one sentence that's really addressing that objection that people might have, right? And focus on that one point. If you want to have a full sentence, even bolding a couple words that are the key words, because people are scanning those. They're not reading the entire history of that person's experience with your product. They're really looking for, can I relate to this product? And the reality is that consumers trust what other consumers have to say so much more than what a brand has to say. And that's really where it comes in, more than anything on the social proof side. Yeah,
it's very true.
So, in terms of your cart page here, I think, there's some, it's a little overwhelming. There's a lot going on, is really the challenge. But I do think customers also bought is great to have on there. I think that really what I would look at doing here is kind of, calling out the free shipping and how much they're away. I think that calling it out with some color, perhaps putting it in some type of color band or something to draw the eye there. And then the only other thing I would really look at here is, again, those one-click buy options, which is what's missing here. So if we go to secure checkout, it's probably going to take us into a Shopify checkout, but again, does not have those one-click checkouts enabled. So would definitely want to do that.
Yep.
I do like how in the checkout you also have the upsells, which is great. So that's good to see. Clearly a Shopify Plus store.
Yep.
Right? So
Definitely a
you
plus
see
store, which is good with the order bumps. So that's definitely an easy way to increase your average order value as well.
Yeah, that's
But
great.
yeah, getting express pay options, I think they would probably see
Mhm.
a higher conversion.
Great. So Emily, should we spend 5 minutes on the next one and try to
Yeah, and
get
then
one
kind
more
of
in?
open it up. Yep, for sure.
Okay. So real quick here, these spin to win or things that are timed offers like this. Here's the challenge with these is consumers know they're not really timed offers, right? There is no real, I bet if I came back in 2 days, it would still say 70% claim. So these types of false or fake urgency really diminish a brand. They don't really help improve it. And then I'm looking at these and the first thing I see is get $440 off. That immediately makes me think, how much is that product that I'm getting $440 off, right? So, at that point, I would really run some testing around just lowering the price of the product for all consumers and seeing how that performs a little bit better. And again, these type of urgency things generally don't perform extremely well. I really want to come back in the next hour or so and see where that's at, but chances are it would be the same. Home in your navigation, it should not be there. You're taking up a really valuable navigation spot that could be useful for products. The problem with this is people are going to click on your logo if they want to go to the home page, or they'll just use the back button in their browser, right? So really don't need to list home. It just takes up that valuable spot. The Dream Pro add-ons, FAQ, news, contact. Contact should just go down in your footer. And news, same thing. You could have a news section throughout your page, but it should be lower on the page. And then FAQ pages, I'm not a huge fan of FAQ pages. I often say that FAQs are where good content goes to die. And the problem is that if it truly is a frequently asked question, that it should be answered where people have the question, right? So answering that on your homepage, answering it on the product detail page, answering it in the checkout flow, that's going to be your best bet. Generally people don't visit these pages, and if they have these questions, they don't go to FAQ. They go to where they have the question and expect an answer. So, and then now we're getting into this. I love that you're leading with the benefits, right, of what it is, and then you talk about the product name. That's great, showing it in use. The challenge here is you now have, it's greater than 70% off. Makes me wonder, does that mean it's 100% off? What does greater than 70% off mean? So I think that, also that's such a large percentage off that it's really creating a value challenge for consumers coming to the site. Again, with the videos, I think, they're going to perform well. The challenge is just like what you see here. Unfortunately, that YouTube, when you embed a YouTube video like this, it will do whatever it wants on the additional items, right? So you can see you've got some of your items here, so that's great. You're controlling that to some degree, which is good to see. But I'd love to see a poster frame here instead that would show one video, something to entice me to click through and watch. Answering what is percussion therapy, I think that's a question people are likely going to have. It's good that you're talking about the benefits. And then scrolling down a little bit, this is great, but I'm wondering if this text here is a little too long. I would really try to shorten those each to like 2 lines, maybe at most. That's what people are going to read. If we did eye tracking on this, pretty clearly we're going to see that people read the first couple of sentences, or they read the first word of each of these, and then they don't read the rest of the paragraph. So the less text you can have in that type of instance, the better. I think, overall there's some really good stuff. Now you're showing what stuff comes with it, which is great. Now you're getting into that social proof, which is really well done. You've got NFL players, Olympians, running back. I would almost say something like trusted by hundreds of professional athletes, including Olympians, NFL, etc. Right? Really call those out up top. I think that could be really, really helpful. And then here we're getting into showing product use, etc. I think that's great. And then supported by the best. I don't know that I would use that type of headline. I would say more something along the lines of featured in, because if people see this and they often think, okay, they ran an ad in those publications. So when you say something like supported by or featured in, that's generally where people go with this, unfortunately. So what you want to do is make it very clear what that's about. What were you featured in, or how did they support you? Okay, and then we've already talked a little bit about social proof here. I think you should have a photo next to a quote that makes it real for people. And then, and not a stock photo, use a real, person that is actually James Ness or Jack Dayton, etc. And then I would just, do something like Exo Gun cut my recovery times in half, right? That's really all that's the benefit that people want, right? Don't bury it in the middle of the paragraph. And then the footer stuff is stuff we've already talked about. So I'm intrigued by this check us out that's been here. I'm going to click that and see. Welcome to our community. Apply now.
Oh, so a rewards program? Yeah. Oh, affiliate.
Affiliate. Yeah. So that's a little interesting that that they've done that with check us out. I would put something like that in the footer if people want to be an affiliate. That's where they're going to go to get that information.
Yep.
So, all right. Great. I'm going to stop sharing here, Emily, unless you have any questions on this page.
This was great. I think we do have one wrap-up question. It's okay. It was just around, the navigation bar. Lots of valuable feedback there, and it's a very important part of your website. And one question that came up was, and it just got buried. Let me find it again. Does it make sense to add kind of a item for all products? So having all products in your navigation bar, either at the beginning or the end, once you've hit that limit. And is there a max on how many items you should have in your navigation bar?
Yeah. So I see, Wayne, you're saying you have 13,000 products in your store. Maybe that's partly where the genesis of the question is. Yeah. The reality on this is that generally we don't like an all products. If you have some infrequently used products or infrequently sold products that are more niche, perhaps you could do something like other products, something of that sort, that then they drop down and it gives you categories that those are under. But the reality, when you put all products in, you're taking up one of the 5 to 6 slots of a navigation. So that's the most that I would recommend, is 5 to 6 navigation items. After that, all the eye tracking, mouse tracking we've done, all of that shows a severe drop off where people will look at the first couple and then they'll drop off. If you keep it to 5, people see that kind of in their peripheral vision and they go to the end thinking there's good information because you're limiting that. But if that is a laundry list of links, they generally get a couple in and they get fatigued and like, forget it, I'm just going to scroll down and see what the site has. So that's generally what we see happening. So I would highly recommend, that you take a look at, if you're going to have all products, that you do something where you have the main categories that are your best sellers and what people generally know you for. And then you have the other products or additional products at the end of the nav with categories in the dropdown.
So as mentioned, a follow up to this webinar is we'll be sending out an email that will have the recording on it, so you guys can listen back on it and jot down all of that, the tips and tricks that Jon shared with us today. If you're interested in learning more about our services, at CartHook, we offer a 14-day free trial. And again, we are a post-purchase offers app that works directly with Shopify stores that allows you to increase your order value with post-purchase offers. And The Good, again, an optimization firm, and Jon has graciously offered some discounts here that you can see on your screen. Jon, thank you.
Yeah, I saw in a comment somebody said they had picked up the book. and read it in a day. And so
Mhm.
thank you for that. You can get a free copy of that book here. Just go to thegood.com/book/CartHook and enter CartHook as the discount code and coupon code, and you'll get a free copy. And then the assessment, feel free to go and check that out. It's basically what we did today. Our team will do for 3 pages of your site plus some additional content around eye tracking, and you'll walk away with a action plan. So I think it's pretty valuable there, and we don't typically discount that. So so good special there. And these will all be good through May 15th. So you have 2 weeks to take advantage of it. So please do. And if you have any questions, I drop my email in the chat. Feel free to email me. I give it out quite often,
Mhm.
and people are always respectful. I would expect nothing more, but or nothing less here. But I would say I do read every email and get back to you as soon as I can. So thank you for having me today, Emily. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, John. This was very helpful. And one note, if you haven't signed up for the Goods email newsletters, definitely recommend that as well. They're very good. So
Thank you. I
appreciate your
appreciate that.
time, John. And thank you everyone for joining. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Have
Bye.
a good day.